The sound of footsteps echoed in the wide gym hall. Alien students were already gathered inside, their scales, fur, and strange skin colors glinting under the bright training lights. The air smelled of ozone and sweat. Every race had its own way of training. Some lifted heavy crystal blocks. Others coiled their flexible bodies around steel beams for balance practice. And some practiced combat drills with claws, blades, or telekinetic pushes. But today was not like other days. Whispers passed through the groups of students. Heads turned toward the heavy double doors. The sound of the footsteps grew louder, slow, and steady, like someone completely unbothered by the stairs waiting on the other side. A new student was coming, a transfer. But not just any transfer. This was a human. The word had spread across the academy like wildfire. A Deathworlder was coming here. For most alien races, the word Deathworld itself was a nightmare. Deathworlds were planets so hostile that almost nothing could survive there. Monsters with teeth like blades, storms, with lightning strong enough to melt stone, climates that changed from fire to ice in the same day. And yet, somehow, humans did not just survive on Earth. They thrived. They built cities, machines, and even ships that crossed the stars. The aliens in the gym were not warriors. They were young students, here to train, to study, to prepare for the galaxy's future. But even they knew what humans were. Dangerous, unpredictable, predators in a galaxy where most species were prey. The double doors creaked open. He stepped inside. At first glance, he looked almost ordinary. 2 arms, 2 legs, no claws, no wings, no scales. His skin was smooth, his body covered in simple training clothes. Compared to the tall insectoid Krix, or the armored Torgans, or the glowing Ziv, the human looked almost fragile. No one moved. Every alien froze as his eyes swept across the gym. They were not glowing. They were not monstrous. But there was something in them, something sharp, like a blade hidden in plain sight. Those were predator eyes. The whispers grew louder. Is that him? A real Deathworlder? He looks so small. Small? Look at the way he moves. The human did not rush. He walked calmly, his footsteps steady, echoing against the floor as if he owned the space. He passed by the climbing frames, the weight stations, the sparring rings. Alien eyes followed him, but he ignored them all. Without a word, he went to one of the empty benches near the side of the gym and sat down. Silence stretched for several seconds. Then, almost at once, the whispers exploded again. Why is he here? Are they trying to test us? No. Maybe they want us to see what a Deathworlder is really like. I heard one human can fight a pack of Drac wolves with his bare hands. The human simply sat there, resting his elbows on his knees, watching quietly. His calmness was more terrifying than if he had roared. Predators did not need to show their teeth all the time. Sometimes just their presence was enough. The gym teacher, a tall reptilian creature with green scales and a voice like grinding stone, clapped his claws together. Silence. The whispers stopped at once. The teacher's eyes flicked toward the human, then back to the rest of the class. We have a new student today, the teacher said slowly, as though the words were heavy in his throat. From Earth, a human. You will treat him with respect. You will also remember, this is the academy. Here, you are all equals, no exceptions. But the teacher's own tail twitched nervously. He had heard the same rumors as the students. Humans were not equals. Not when it came to survival. Not when it came to combat. The students nodded, though many kept glancing at the human. Warm-ups. The teacher barked. At once, the aliens began moving, stretching limbs, coiling bodies, flexing wings. Groups formed quickly, as they always did, species sticking with their own kind. But no one approached the human. He remained alone on his bench. Then, slowly, he stood. The human walked toward the stretching area. Every movement was controlled, balanced, as if his body knew exactly what it was capable of. He began to stretch to nothing flashy, nothing strange. Just simple motions, bending, twisting, rolling his shoulders. And yet, the more the aliens watched, the more uncomfortable they became. There was a precision to his movements, an economy of motion. He stretched like someone who had done this 1,000 times. Like someone preparing for something serious. Like a predator preparing to hunt. One insectoid student whispered, "Why do I feel like he's measuring us?" No one answered. But many thought the same. Minutes passed. The human said nothing. He barely looked at anyone, but the tension in the room kept rising. Even the air felt heavy. The aliens were used to noise, to chatter, to the hum of many species training together. Now, the silence pressed on them like a weight. The teacher finally broke it. Form lines. Today we will begin with endurance drills. The students moved quickly, relieved to have something to do. Lines formed in front of the running track. The human joined one of them at the end. The aliens ahead of him shifted nervously, aware of his presence but not daring to look back. The teacher raised his claw. "Begin." The students ran. Alien feet pounded the track, heavy thuds, scraping claws, clicking hooves. Some students sprinted ahead, showing off their speed. Others paced themselves. The human started running. At first, he seemed unremarkable. His stride was smooth, his pace steady, his breathing calm. But as the laps continued, something strange happened. The sprinters began to tire. Their breathing grew ragged, their steps heavy. Even the strong endurance runners began to slow. But the human did not. His pace never changed. His breathing never faltered. His eyes stayed forward, calm, steady, unshaken. One by one, the alien students fell behind. By the 10th lap, only the human was still running at the same speed. Not faster, not slower. Just endless. Whispers started again. Is he even tired? Impossible. He's not stopping. His body should not handle this much strain. But the human kept going. Finally, the teacher called out, "Enough." The students collapsed onto the floor, gasping, sweating, some clutching their sides. The human slowed, stopped, and simply walked back to the bench. His breathing was steady. His face was calm. He looked normal. And that normalness was the most terrifying thing of all. By the end of training, the atmosphere in the gym had completely changed. At the start, the aliens had been curious, even doubtful. Some thought the human might be weaker than the rumors, but now there was only fear. They had seen his eyes. They had seen the way he moved. They had seen his endurance, his calmness, his control. He was not like them. When the class ended, the students left in groups, whispering, glancing back at the human as he tied his shoes and calmly stood up. No one dared speak to him. No one dared stand too close. The teacher dismissed them all, his voice louder than usual, as though to hide his own unease. The human left last. His footsteps echoed again in the silent gym. And when the doors closed behind him, the students finally exhaled. One alien muttered, That was only the beginning." Another whispered, "If this is how he trains, what happens when he fights?" The question hung in the air like a shadow, and deep down, every alien in that gym knew the answer. They had just seen the surface of something far more dangerous than they could understand. The next day, the gym hall was louder than usual. Alien students whispered in clusters, tails flicking, wings twitching, mandibles clicking nervously. No one wanted to say it out loud, but everyone had the same thought. The human was coming back. Yesterday had shaken them. They had watched him run until the rest collapsed. They had seen his calm eyes, his steady breathing, the way he moved like a predator conserving energy. That memory had haunted their dreams. Now as they gathered for the next training session, the tension was even heavier than before. Some students tried to laugh it off. He's just a runner. Endurance freak, maybe, nothing more. Yes, don't forget, strength is different. He's small. His muscles are nothing compared to ours. We'll see today. We'll see the truth. But the laughter was forced. No one truly believed. The heavy doors opened. He walked in again, calm, steady, unbothered by the stares. Same simple training clothes, same ordinary face, same predator eyes. The gym went quiet. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the teacher paused before speaking. Today, the reptilian instructor growled, "We test strength." The teacher led them to the lifting platforms. Massive weights, designed for many different species, were stacked in organized piles. Some were iron slabs, some crystalline blocks, others dense gravity cubes that could increase mass when activated. Each species had its own preferred training weight. The insectoids lifted long rods with balance. The scaled Torgans pushed heavy blocks. The energy-based Ziv manipulated dense cores with their glowing limbs. The teacher pointed his claw. "Line up. Each of you will lift the standard weight for your species. Then we will see how far you can push yourselves." Excitement spread quickly. Aliens always enjoyed showing off strength. It was different from running. Running was survival. Strength was pride. Many were eager to prove themselves after yesterday's humiliation. But as always, the human remained calm, waiting quietly at the end of the line. The first student, a bulky Torgan with plated scales, stomped forward. He bent down, grabbed a massive iron block, and heaved it over his head. The crowd cheered, impressive as always. The teacher barked. Next, a four-armed insectoid scuttled forward. With clicking mandibles, it lifted two long rods at once, balancing them perfectly. In its four arms, the crowd clapped their claws and hands. One by one, the students showed their power. Some used brute muscle, others balance and technique. The atmosphere grew lively. Students cheered for their own species, shouted encouragement, even laughed when someone dropped a weight. For a moment, it felt like a normal day, until it was his turn. The human stepped forward. Silence fell instantly. The air seemed to thicken. Every student leaned forward, waiting. The teacher's voice was careful. "Human, your standard weight is here." He pointed to a modest set of iron plates. The teacher had chosen them deliberately, not too heavy, not too light. He wanted to avoid risk. No one knew exactly how strong a human was, and the academy could not afford an accident. The human looked at the plates. He said nothing. He bent down, gripped them with both hands, and lifted. The plates rose easily. Too easily, he held them for a moment, then placed them back down gently. His face showed no strain. Whispers started. That was nothing. Did he even try? Maybe he's weaker than we thought. But then the human did something unexpected. Without asking, without waiting for permission, he moved to the next set of weights. They were meant for a much larger species, dense gravity cubes that strained even the strongest Torgans. The students gasped. "He can't. Those are not for him." "Stop him before he breaks." The human crouched, placed his hands under the cube, and lifted. The cube rose. Slowly, steadily, but without hesitation. His muscles flexed, veins rising along his arms, but his face remained calm. He stood tall, the massive cube above his chest, and then lowered it carefully back into place. Silence. Total silence. Even the teacher stared, his tail frozen mid-swing. The human straightened, rolled his shoulders, and looked around. Not in arrogance, not in challenge, just calmly. The whispers exploded. Impossible. He lifted a gravity cube. Even I struggle with that weight. How can a creature from a Deathworld be this strong? But the human was not done. He walked to the heaviest weight in the room. A block no student had ever attempted. It was more symbolic than practical, a training tool meant only for demonstration. The instructor himself struggled with it. The students shouted, double quotes, "No, he'll crush himself. Stop him. Teacher, stop him." But the human did not stop. He bent down, wrapped his hands under the block, and lifted. For a moment, nothing happened. The block refused to move. The room held its breath. Then slowly it rose. Inch by inch, higher and higher, until it cleared the ground. The human's teeth clenched, his arms trembled, but he did not give up. He pulled, step by step, until he stood fully upright with the impossible block in his grip. And then he set it down gently. Carefully, without a crash, the room erupted in chaos. No one has ever... He did it. He lifted the impossible. Block. By the stars, he's not just endurance. He's strength, too. The teacher finally roared for silence. His voice cracked louder than usual. Enough! The noise died, but the fear remained. Every student stared at the human differently now. Yesterday, they had feared his endurance. Today, they saw his strength. The human did not celebrate. He did not smile. He did not even look proud. He simply returned to his bench and sat down, calm as ever, like nothing unusual had happened. That calmness was worse than any arrogance. Arrogance they could handle. Arrogance could be challenged. But this calm, this control, was terrifying. Later, as the students left the gym, their whispers followed like shadows. Did you see it? He wasn't even using full power. What kind of monsters are humans? One insectoid trembled as he spoke to his friend. If he can lift that much, what can he do in combat? With weapons? With fury? No one answered. Because deep down, they all knew the truth. If this was just training, if this was just him holding back, then in a real fight, none of them would stand a chance. The human walked out last again, his footsteps echoing against the gym floor. And once more, when the doors closed behind him, the entire hall exhaled as one. But unlike yesterday, there was no relief, only fear. The whispers grew darker. Rumors spread faster. By the time night fell, the entire academy knew the Deathworlder was not just fast. He was strong. And tomorrow, they might find out what else he could do. The academy was restless. 2 days had passed since the human's arrival, and already the entire campus was speaking about him. The whispers spread through the dorms, the cafeteria, the lecture halls. Even students who had not seen him with their own eyes spoke about the stories. How he had run until everyone else collapsed. How he had lifted weights no one dared to touch. The word repeated again and again. Deathworlder. For some, the word carried fear. For others, fascination. But for a small group of students, it carried something else. Jealousy. The strongest of the alien students were not used to being ignored. In the gym, others always admired them, looked up to them, whispered their names with respect. But now, all anyone spoke about was the human. It's not fair, one insectoid hissed, his mandibles clicking with anger. He is smaller than us. We trained for years. And yet he walks in and takes all the attention. A scaled Torgan slammed his heavy tail on the ground. Let them talk. He lifted a block, yes, but strength is not everything. Combat decides who is truly powerful. Another alien leaned closer. Then challenge him. Show everyone that he is nothing more than an animal. Let them see who really deserves fear. The idea spread like fire. By the time the next gym session came, several of the strongest students had already decided. Today, they would provoke him. Today, they would expose the human for what he really was, or so they believed. When the human entered the gym, the atmosphere felt different. The whispers were sharper, louder. Instead of fear, there was tension. Something was about to happen. The teacher ordered the warm-up drills, but the students were distracted. Their eyes kept flicking to the human, waiting for the moment. It came. Sooner than expected. As the students gathered near the sparring ring, the Torgan with plated scales stepped forward. He towered over most of the class, his muscles bulging, his teeth sharp. His deep voice rumbled through the hall. "Human, step into the ring." The gym went silent. The human looked up from where he was stretching. His calm eyes studied the Torgan. For a moment, he did not speak. The Torgan sneered. "Or are you afraid?" Gasps spread through the students. No one had ever dared say that word to a Deathworlder. The teacher tried to intervene. "Enough. This is not the time for..." But the human stood. Slowly, quietly, without a word, he walked toward the ring. The silence deepened. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Inside the ring, the Torgan cracked his knuckles, his heavy tail dragging across the floor. "Do not think your running or your lifting makes you strong," he growled. "This is combat. This is where real power is shown." The human said nothing. The teacher hesitated, then sighed. "Very well. This will be a controlled spar. Number. Lethal force. Begin when ready." The Torgan roared, charging forward with all the strength of his heavy body. His claws slashed through the air. His tail whipped behind him like a hammer. The ground shook under his steps, but the human moved. Not fast, not flashy, just one step to the side. Calm, precise, like he had known the attack was coming before it began. The Torgan's claws cut through empty air. Gasps filled the room. The Torgan spun, tail whipping toward the human's ribs. Again, the human moved one smooth shift of his body, and the tail passed harmlessly by. His eyes never left his opponent. It was not luck. It was not reaction. It was instinct, predator instinct. Torgan grew angrier. His attacks became faster, stronger, more desperate. Each strike was powerful enough to break bones, to crush weaker students. But none of them touched the human. He flowed around every blow, calm and steady, like water around rocks. His breathing never changed. His face never twisted. The students whispered, voices trembling. "He's predicting him." No, he's reading him, like a hunter watching prey. Then, suddenly, the human moved forward. Just one step. His hand reached out, gripped the Torgan's arm, and with a simple twist, the massive alien was flipped onto his back. The sound of his heavy body slamming the mat echoed like thunder. The room froze. The Torgan lay stunned, his mouth open in disbelief. The human stood above him, calm, controlled, his hand already released. He had not hurt him. He had not even used violence. Just one precise motion. The silence broke into chaos. Impossible. He's smaller. He threw him like nothing. The Torgan scrambled to his feet, humiliated, roaring in fury. He charged again, and again. The human moved. One step, one turn, one grip. The Torgan was on the floor once more. The human stepped back, his expression unchanged, his breathing steady. The teacher finally shouted, "Enough!" But it was too late. The lesson was already clear. The other jealous students could not accept it. One after another, they stepped into the ring. An insectoid with 4 arms, a ziv with glowing limbs, a serpent-bodied alien with coiling strikes. Each one attacked. Each one failed. The human never struck first. He never showed aggression. He only moved, avoided, redirected. And every time, his opponents ended up on the ground. It was not raw strength. It was not speed alone. It was control, precision, instinct, predator instinct. The aliens began to realize something terrible. This was not just training. This was survival. The human was not showing them a sport. He was showing them what his species had been forced to learn on Earth: how to fight, how to endure, how to dominate predators larger and stronger than themselves. Every move said the same thing. We were born in danger. We learned to survive danger. And now you are the ones who feel like prey. By the time the last challenger fell, the gym was silent. No one dared to step forward again. The human stood in the center of the ring, calm as ever, not even sweating. His eyes scanned the crowd. He did not need to speak. His silence spoke louder than any roar. The teacher ended the session quickly, clearly shaken. Class dismissed. The students filed out in hushed silence, their eyes wide, their minds racing. Some were terrified. Some were in awe. But all of them understood now. The rumors had not exaggerated. Humans were not just strong, not just enduring. They were predators, calm, patient, terrifying predators who could see every weakness, every opening, every mistake. As the human left the gym, last as always, his footsteps echoed once more. One student whispered what everyone was already thinking. He wasn't fighting us. What do you mean? He was holding back, controlling himself. If he wanted, he could have broken us. The thought chilled them more than the fight itself. And as the gym doors closed, the question spread like a shadow through the academy. If a human could dominate without even trying, what would happen if one truly fought to kill? The academy had never been this quiet. It was supposed to be a place of noise, alien students talking in many voices. Wings buzzing, tails slapping floors, claws scratching tables, strange laughs echoing in the halls. But now the usual sounds had faded. Everywhere, whispers replaced laughter. Eyes followed shadows. Conversations stopped whenever the human walked by. The fear was spreading. It began in the cafeteria. At lunchtime, the alien students filled the long metallic hall. Food trays clattered, machines hissed, and the smell of many alien meals mixed in the air. Normally, the cafeteria was chaotic. Students argued, shouted, and sometimes even fought for fun. But not today. The human entered with his food tray in hand. It was a simple meal: bread, protein, fruit, ordinary. But the reaction was not ordinary. The moment he stepped inside, every conversation died. Claws froze halfway to mouths. Mandibles clicked shut. Wings stopped buzzing. Hundreds of alien eyes turned toward him. He did not notice. Or perhaps he simply did not care. He walked calmly, as always, each step steady and balanced. He scanned the room once, then moved to an empty table in the corner. He sat down, placed his tray in front of him, and began to eat, just eating. Nothing more, but the silence remained. The aliens watched the way he chewed slowly, the way his eyes seemed aware of everything around him, the way his back never bent like prey. He ate like a predator resting between hunts. Finally, whispers began. Don't sit near him. I heard he broke 3 champions in the ring. No, he didn't break them. He just controlled them. That's worse, much worse. A group of insectoid students picked up their trays and left, not even finishing their meals. A scaled Torgan swallowed hard, his claws trembling as he tried not to look at the human. Even the bravest students avoided walking past his table. The human did not look up once. He finished his food, stood, placed the tray away, and walked out. Only then did the cafeteria breathe again. One alien muttered, "It feels like a predator walked through a herd." The others nodded silently. They all felt the same. By the next day, the whispers had reached the library. The library was a vast dome filled with glowing data crystals and old printed records. Normally, it was the quietest place in the academy. Students studying alone, some asleep at tables, others sharing research. But when the human entered, silence took a new meaning. He carried no books. He simply walked, scanning shelves with calm eyes. The sound of his footsteps echoed too loudly in the stillness. Students froze in their chairs. Pages stopped turning. No one dared to cough. No one dared to breathe too loudly. He selected a book, sat at an empty table, and began to read. The aliens watched. He doesn't even need data pads. One whispered, "He's reading with focus. Like he's preparing for something. Maybe he's studying us." The rumor spread in seconds. By the time he closed the book and left, the story had already twisted. Some claimed he was memorizing battle tactics. Others said he was planning something. None of it was true. But fear rarely needed truth. Soon, even the teachers began to whisper. In the staff chambers, voices rose in nervous discussion. This was a mistake, hissed a winged instructor. We should never have accepted a Deathworlder. The students are terrified. But look at his performance, argued another. His endurance, his strength, his combat instinct, it is unmatched. He could be a model student. A model? Scoffed the reptilian gym teacher. No, he is a warning. Every move he makes shows restraint. That restraint will not last forever. What happens when he loses control? The room fell into silence. Each teacher had imagined the same nightmare. What if the humans stopped holding back? Rumors grew wild. By the end of the week, students whispered that the human had once fought a pack of beasts on Earth with his bare hands. Others claimed he could see in total darkness. Some even said he had killed before. How else could he move like that? None of them knew the truth. But in their minds, the unknown was worse than reality. One student whispered in the dorms, I dreamed about his eyes. They were glowing in the dark, watching me. Another said, I woke up sweating. I thought I heard his footsteps outside my door. The fear had become more than whispers. It had become part of their minds. The human noticed none of this, or at least he gave no sign. He continued to attend classes, to train, to eat, to study. Calm, quiet, controlled. But that calmness only made it worse. Prey animals were noisy. Predators were silent. One day, the academy headmaster received a sealed message. It was written in old galactic standard, in a style almost forgotten. The headmaster opened it carefully. Inside, only one sentence was written: never underestimate a human. The headmaster stared at the words for a long time. He did not know who had sent them. He did not know how they had arrived. But he understood the warning. He looked out the window, toward the gymnasium where the human was training. And for the first time in many years, the headmaster felt afraid. That night, a group of alien students gathered secretly in a dorm room. Their voices were low, their eyes shifting nervously toward the door. We cannot live like this, one insectoid whispered. Every day I feel like prey. If he wanted to, he could destroy us all. Then what do we do? The room went quiet. Finally, a scaled student spoke. We test him again, push him harder. If he breaks, maybe we will know he has limits. But another shook his head violently. No, you saw what happened in the ring. He was not fighting us, he was controlling us. If we push him harder, maybe he will stop controlling himself. The silence returned. Each student thought about what that would mean. None of them liked the answer. The next morning, the human entered the gym once more. The students moved aside instinctively, clearing a path for him. It was not respect, it was fear. No one wanted to be too close. No one wanted to draw his attention. The human noticed. His calm eyes swept across the room, and the students shivered. The gym teacher shouted the drills louder than usual, his voice almost shaking. The class obeyed quickly, desperate to avoid mistakes. The human moved through every exercise with the same control as always. Calm, precise, silent. But the fear was no longer silent. It was alive, moving through the academy like a shadow. Every student carried it. Every teacher felt it. The human's presence had changed everything. And yet, deep inside, some students could not deny a different feeling. Admiration. Because fear and awe were close brothers. The insectoid who once hated him whispered to a friend, "Do you think maybe this is what true strength looks like?" The friend shivered. If it is, then maybe we are not strong at all. That night, the academy was silent. The stars shone above, cold and distant. In his dorm room, the human sat at his desk, writing in a small notebook. His expression was calm. His movements were quiet. He did not know that across the academy, Students whispered his name like a ghost story. He did not know that teachers debated his existence in secret. He did not know that the headmaster held a mysterious warning in his hands. Or perhaps he did know. Perhaps his predator instincts told him everything. Either way, one truth was now certain. The fear had spread, and it was only the beginning. The academy was tense like never before. The previous days had shaken every student. The human, this Deathworlder, had shown endurance beyond belief, strength no alien could match, and predator instincts that left the strongest shaken. Whispers had become louder. Fear had spread from classrooms to dorms, from cafeterias to the library. No one could ignore him. And now, the headmaster decided it was time for the grand trial. The grand trial was the academy's most important event. It was where the strongest students displayed their skills in combat, strategy, and endurance. Leaders from every alien race came to watch. It was meant to be a celebration of talent, not a warning. But this year, everyone had one question on their mind: what will the human do? The gymnasium was massive, filled with every species in the academy. They gathered in tiers, whispering and pointing. Some were scared, some curious. All eyes waited for the human. He entered quietly, wearing simple training gear. His expression was calm, his eyes scanning the crowd once, as if he could see every thought before it formed. Every whisper stopped. The headmaster's deep voice echoed across the hall. Today, each student will demonstrate their skills. And yes, he said, eyes flicking toward the human. Even our new transfer student from Earth. The first demonstrations were impressive. Students leaped, lifted, and fought with power. The crowd cheered. But the moment anyone compared their performance to the human, silence returned. Finally, it was his turn. The human stepped into the center of the arena. He did not rush. He did not show aggression. The aliens who had feared him watched intently, unsure what to expect. The first task was simple: lift a heavy block designed from multiple species. He bent down, lifted it as easily as holding a feather, and placed it back. No applause. Only silent fear. The second task was agility. Obstacles, spinning platforms, traps that tested reflexes. The human moved through them as if the course had no danger. Every jump precise, every step calculated. The students whispered, "It is not humanly possible." The third trial was combat one-on-one sparring. Strongest students lined up to challenge him. One by one, they stepped forward. A Ziv with glowing limbs, a four-armed insectoid, a Torgan with plated scales. All attacked with force, speed, and strategy. All failed. The human did not strike first. He only moved, avoided, and redirected. Every strike, every claw, every tail that came at him was neutralized. Not with raw strength, but with calm precision. Each time, the opponent ended on the floor. Unhurt, but humbled. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. He is not fighting. He is controlling. He is teaching them what it feels like to be prey. The final trial was endurance. Students believed this would test the human. Heavy weights, long runs, and combat drills in succession. It was designed to push even the strongest to their limits. The human moved calmly through every exercise. His breathing never changed. His pace never faltered. His movements were precise, controlled, almost effortless. Every student watching felt a cold chill. He is not like us. The headmaster looked on, worry etched on his face. He had seen many strong species, but nothing like this. This human combined endurance, strength, and predator instincts. A creature from a death world, tested by nature itself, trained in survival beyond imagination. The crowd was silent when the human finally completed the last task. He stood tall, calm, and quiet. Not a word, not a smile, just his eyes scanning the arena once more. Then he spoke. "I did what was necessary," he said simply. His voice was steady, confident. Not to show power, not to boast, only to demonstrate. The aliens stared. Some shivered. Some whispered to each other. Demonstrate. What? The human continued, his eyes calm, yet piercing. On my planet, survival is not optional. Every day is a test. You survive not because you are strong alone, but because you learn control, precision, and patience. Strength alone is useless. Speed alone is useless. The universe respects only those who can endure danger, predict threats, and remain calm under pressure. He paused. Silence fell again. Humans are called Deathworlders not because we kill, not because we destroy, but because we are made by a world where only the clever, the patient, and the strong survive. And you are now seeing what that truly means. The truth hit every student like a hammer. The whispers that had been growing for days now became awe, fear mixed with respect. They realized that the human was not simply strong, not simply fast, not simply enduring. He embodied everything that survival required on a planet where life itself was the enemy. He was a living proof of why humans were called Deathworlders. Even the headmaster nodded silently. The warning he had received days ago suddenly made sense. Never underestimate a human. After the trial, students approached him carefully. Some bowed, some whispered apologies for underestimating him. Even the jealous students of the past days now looked at him differently. He accepted none of the admiration. He simply nodded politely, calm, as though nothing unusual had happened. The academy would never be the same again. Every alien student would remember this day for the rest of their lives. They had seen a predator from a death world. They had seen calmness, precision, control, strength, and endurance combined in one being. And they knew. They had only scratched the surface. That night, the academy was quiet, but the tension remained. Students whispered in dorms, teachers discussed in secret, and the headmaster stared at the stars. The human sat in his room, writing quietly in a notebook. No celebration, no pride, only focus. He did not need to prove himself further. He had shown the truth, and in that truth lay a message for the galaxy. Humans are survivors. Humans are predators. Humans are not to be underestimated. The next morning, the academy was calm, but it carried a new energy. Students trained harder, moved faster, fought smarter. The fear of the human had changed them all. They would never forget the lessons they had witnessed. The human? He walked through the halls as he always had, quiet, calm, and deadly in his simplicity. His presence alone was enough to command attention, respect, and fear. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the story of the Deathworlder had already begun to spread. Humans were no longer a curiosity. They were a warning. The academy had learned the truth. The galaxy would learn it soon.